All right, happy Sunday. Okay, happy Sunday, by the way. For all you Van Halen-ologists out there, if that wasn't dead on, I don't care. Mistakes are free. Hey, it's really hard. I mean, every year around this time and the anniversary of his death, I do an Eddie tribute. I don't know if you guys remember when he passed away back in, I believe it was 2020. That's terrible. Yeah, but anyways, when he passed away, I think I did Van Halen tributes on this show for the next 6 or 7 weeks. I don't know. It was a while. I went through everything. The hardest thing to cheers, by the way. Happy Sunday. The hardest thing to duplicate for him is the touch. Well, the sound for one thing. I mean, I remember I did Top Jimmy a while back, and Little Guitars. Little Guitars was a tough one because Little Guitars he actually plays on a little guitar that's tuned a different, about half the step, it's tuned like fret 7 type thing, capo, and then it's just a lot. It was just hard to get. For one thing, it was to play it was one thing. To get the tone was a different. Women in Love, the same thing here. Getting that the tapping to jump out. And then we switch to the. See, I feel that sounds a little too bright, but you have to get it bright enough to get the tapping out. Anyways, that's for you guitar guys out there. Anyhow, Eddie Van Halen's passed away, and then he basically today, or last. Okay, anyways, I'm rambling on again. Last week, Francis from the Scorpions passed away, so that took precedent over my Eddie tribute that I usually do, basically very closer to his birthday. That's all I have to say. But anyhow, yes, I do an Eddie Van Halen tribute every year. I've done everything from, playing every song on Van Halen 1. I've done Eruption here. I've done Top Jimmy. Some of the more difficult things that you have to sit here and practice, and it's kind of cool. It's kind of cool to play his stuff. I never too far. If you look in my shred den, is that what we call it now? Shred den. I don't like calling it man cave because that's way too generic for guys who watch football and stuff like that. But anyways, there's no sports TVs down here. It's just all music. This is the world of shredding, and this magazine has never been too far from this seat in my entire life practicing. And why there's no tabs in here. There's no actual notation. There's no sound pages. This magazine used to have this little floppy sound page you used to put on your turntable long before even before CDs were around. They used to have those in these magazines. And anyways, this is Guitar Player magazine, which is no longer around. It may be online now, but the actual print edition is now long gone. So, which is very sad because if you're around my age, this is all we had. All we had was guitar magazines to learn how to play. And when I found out there was actually a Guitar Player magazine, it was like one of the happiest days of my life. I mean, to say there's a guitar magazine for us we can actually buy this thing and read about guitar. And I used to read these things from cover to cover. There's a guy named Derek on Master of Shreds. He's got a YouTube channel, and he actually goes through old magazines with celebrity. He can get celebrities on his show, not me, but he gets big name guitar, and they go through it and they actually look through and look at all the ads that are in here and how dated they are and how cool they are. Like the MXR stereo chorus here in brilliant yellow, which we remember that pedal. If you guys remember this kind of stuff, you try and find another gem here. The Jacksons in concert, all playing Kramer guitars, which is kind of foreshadowing because this man here was not yet playing Kramer guitars, and it was just very interesting how everything panned out. Eddie is on here. This is the roughly Van Halen 2. I think this was Women and Children First. Fair War. I can't remember exactly when this magazine, what album was out at that time. It's April 1980. So Women and Children First was probably out. And this guitar here is what we call the Bumblebee, which was the guitar that he taped up and painted for Van Halen 2. And is that not a rock star? Eh? Look at that. Red pants, leather vest, striped guitar, total pose, scarf hanging down here. Eddie. Anyways, this is my treasured thing. I actually should go. Rather than I have to dig it out of a pile over there because it's never too far. But I should actually wrap this in plastic or put it somewhere a little safer. It actually was amazing because it was the first time you saw his hands up close. The first time you read him in print. For me, anyways, there was a small article before that, and it actually had some of these close-ups of his fingers and hands doing these techniques. And I think forever. There's a picture here of him tapping, harmonics. Actually, tapping the harmonic that he did on Women in Love. And he tucked his pick. When he had his, he played mostly like this, holding this. The strong ones were holding, the strong fingers were the thumb, and that was the one he picked. And then, but when he tapped, he tucked his pick up underneath here and tapped. And I think I've always done that now since reading that magazine. And then all these years later, I still do it that way. And I'm sure a lot of Van Halen disciples like myself will probably do that too. But Eddie, untimely passed away, as we all know, sadly. And then sadly, you have major regard for the guys who pass away, and maybe not so much gave him so much credit while he was alive, and then everybody realized that he was the father of basically 80s rock, and Van Halen really was one of those bands, like how Jimi Hendrix came and blew apart Guitar World, and then Eddie Van Halen came and blew apart the Guitar World. And not sure if it'll happen again as with such groundbreaking stuff. I don't think it will. But basically, also the band Van Halen revolutionized just the same way the Beatles made everybody realize that they can just play four-piece in a band with drums, bass, and guitar. Van Halen took it to another level where you can just rip apart heavy rock with just a power trio and a flamboyant lead singer. And you watch some of the footage of those early Van Halen tours, like that when they opened for Black Sabbath. It's out there, and it's just unbelievable. Maybe not so much today to see it, but then you think about how it was back in 1978, and this band just comes out there and just blows apart people, and no one wanted to play after them. I think they scared Ozzy on that Black Sabbath tour, but and I know people have seen that tour, so lucky you to see Van Halen or Eddie in his first tour, basically. Crazy stuff. But anyhow, cheers to Van Halen. There's not much I can say about him other than the fact that he is the greatest guitar player ever. for a lot of reasons. Some people might disagree with that. Rolling Stone magazine would probably disagree with that. They would rather put, you know, I'm not even going to say it, who they'd rather put in front of Eddie Van Halen. But Eddie Van Halen is the #1 guitar player only because he just exploded and brought it back to this whole reinvention of the instrument. You know, from tapping to sounds to putting your to ripping apart guitars and building. I mean, my guitars are all one of a kind of all kinds of mods. Why? Because of this guy. You know, he was the guy who did it. And then you read about him, how he used to just chisel chunks out of the guitar and put pickups in. There's a reason why this guitar, even though this doesn't look like Eddie's guitar, there's a reason why there's a humbucker in the bridge. There's one single here, and there's a Floyd Rose, tremolo bar or vibrato bar, whammy bar in there, because that's all Eddie. That's all Eddie. Even sticking the picks on the front here that's Eddie. Eddie, he didn't care what guitars he played. Here's another magazine here of him. Later years. Always had something weird. Look at that thing that he's I don't know what that is. Some mariachi kind of guitar instrument, but sorry, I go on about Eddie. I do. I go on about Eddie Van Halen. Just stupid things like this. The shark guitar carving, taking a chunk out of an Ibanez Destroyer body and putting it in there. But this article in this magazine, it's long gone too, unfortunately. Couple things in here that I wanted to show you guys. And you guys are Van Halen disciples, know this already. Here's his it's a 64 Strat. 64 Strat. So not as collectible as the 50 Strat, but 64 Strat that he bought. Some guy brought it backstage, and the first thing he did, and if you can see it on here, was he took a screwdriver and carved 5150 into it. And the guy was just appalled and said, "What are you doing? That's a vintage Strat." And he goes, "Well, now I know it's mine." So basically he said, "I don't care about the vintage market. I want that sound, and I'm never selling this again. So this is my guitar." Another one that he did was, there's this SG right here. There's a movie called, there's a song called "Dirty Movies" on Fair Warning, and he had to play slide, and he couldn't get the slide all the way up, so he took a hacksaw and just chopped the bottom horn of the SG right off. That was a 62 SG Junior, by the way. Another appalling thing. Here's a 55 Les Paul Junior that's just shredded. He's got I don't know what he did to this. I think he put a chemical on there to try and get the sunburst thing off, and it's destroyed. Another vintage guitar. He didn't care. He's got 59 Les Pauls. He rips out the pickups and does I don't know. It's just insane. Everything just to chase the sound. There's a book out there that I have not read yet called Tone Chaser, all about Eddie chasing his sound out there. There's some amazing stories about how he got sounds. I think, and he was the guy who read every magazine. He read every guitar magazine. He when he saw a new player come out and have something, like, for instance, Steve Vai at one point in the 80s had a little table or a little riser on this part of the guitar to raise the picking hand up so he can get a little bit above the strings for the picking. Interesting thing. You'll see some, look it up. There's some pictures of Steve Vai's guitars that have this little platform that he built over here. Didn't use it for long. But there's a video of Eddie in his studio, and he's got that thing on there. So he saw Steve Vai do that. So he had to try that too and put it on there. So he was always experimenting. It would be amazing to be his guitar tech. It would be a hard job because, you'd have to fabricate that and put it on there. But it would just be so cool to see some of that stuff. I mean, sure, it's all Wolfgang's now, but it would have been very cool to get a tour of that place when he was alive and see what he was working on, because he was a guy who was just, he had the safety goggles on and was chipping away and ripping it apart. And some people asked me to repair their guitars, and I said, you got to understand that I come from the Eddie Van Halen school of guitars. So if it doesn't fit in there, I'm chopping the wood out and fitting it in there, because that's what he did. So that's why I'm a builder. I build my stuff. I don't build for anybody else. I build for me, just like he did. So I just rip things apart, solder. I hate soldering, so the solder inside my guitars are terrible. Getting better. I'm getting better. I'm only saying that because I'm repairing one of my son's guitars. It's sitting right over there. I don't want him thinking that I'm just going to hack it. But anyhow, yes, Eddie Van Halen was the innovator for the way he played guitar and also the way he built guitars. And I think the famous quote was Les Paul said to him, "The only guys who know how to build a guitar are you, me, and Leo Fender." And I think Les Paul said that to Eddie, so they were good friends. And he was also an innovator too, so they had a lot in common. Anyhow, that is my Van Halen tribute for 2026. I'm not going to spend the next 6 weeks playing Van Halen stuff on this show, but I will tell you that every day I play a Van Halen lick, it is just more inspiring for me to continue playing and continue to break my own barriers, which you should too. Break your own barriers down, and while you're playing guitar, and don't listen to take lessons, but play your own way. That's all I have to say. Make sure you take lessons, because it's important to have a sounding board. I still take lessons, by the way. It's just you have to get better and better and better, and basically don't always take the guitar off the rack, and play it. It's funny because I teach a lot of guitar, and kids bring in their brand new guitars and they're dying to show me. Some of them are just like, open the case, and everybody around the studio knows, even the other teachers know, hey Darren, this guy's got a new guitar, come on down, let's do the unveiling. The big thing is I try and guess the guitar before the case opens, and I've got that, I've nailed that a few times, but and been horribly wrong too, by the way. But it's just they bring in their new guitar, and sometimes I see it and it's like, that's not the one for you, man. But I can't say it to them because they love it. They love it. Especially a guy. I think someone had a Flying V once, and it's like, love them. It's amazing. I'm saying this in my head. I didn't say this out loud to the kid because it would have crushed him. But it would have been. It's like, you're gonna get tired of playing that sitting down at home, man. Unless you're a born rock star and you're playing a Flying V, go for it. Another guy brought a double neck in years ago, and I go, well, I love it. Of course I love the double necks, but you're not gonna be able to play that every day. That's a specialty guitar that you play live with, and so anyhow, yes, I love when the guitars come in, and some of them are just born for the player, like my longtime student Jacob comes in with an ESP Strat with a Floyd on it. That's your guitar, man. And he was a big Metallica fan, so he came in with an ESP Explorer, just like James Hetfield had around the time of the Black Album. It was just an incredible guitar, a beautiful guitar. He played it all the time. But then finally I got him on the Floyd kick for the whammy bar, and he got himself ESP. Anyways, you know who you are. Anyhow, I don't even know you watch the show. But anyhow, guys, we're all in rehearsal right now for both my bands. We're getting ready for a really great year for Bridge on Fire, as well as Keep the Faith, brand new show for our 20th year. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Come out and see us this summer, or not even this summer, we'll be playing soon. But that, and I love you guys who are loyal, your loyalty, who watch me every week. There's a few of you that watch me every week. I'm not going to name them all because I love you guys. I've had strangers come up to me at gigs, and I told you, I'm at the grocery store, and say, hey, I love your stuff, and I love you guys, man. I come on every Sunday and ramble on. If you guys want more of me, all these shows are on my YouTube channel. And I'm back on TikTok doing guitar lessons again. They get a huge traction on TikTok. It's amazing. My Instagram channel, I've neglected it a lot. But Facebook, you probably, if you want to know what I'm doing and be my friend or whatever and understand what's going on in my life, come to Facebook, because that's probably it goes the first go-to. Anyhow, guys, take it easy. Happy birthday, Eddie. Happy February. It's now February 1st, and we're getting through the cold weather, I think. I got to try and start 2 cars today, and it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Anyways, cheers. Have a good one. Take it easy. Bye-bye.